Good evening, everyone. I think we both have bad throats today. So there's going to be a good jugalbandi of expression. But I want to say how happy I am to be here, to be in conversation with Manish Gaekwad. The book is the last session, and the book is called The Last Courtesan, Memoirs of My Mother. I don't know how many of you have read the book. This is a lovely book. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Some people will read it now.
I got the book 3 days ago on Amazon, and believe you me, I've just finished reading it. It's an unputdownable. It's a book which has a lot of raw emotions. It's a book which, in my head, is about, a memoir which is being told not really in the voice of the person writing it. It's not an autobiographical memoir, though Manish told me that he had long interviews with his mother. He talked to her. But you see, there is always a different third dimension which happens. It's like the untranslatable, which happens when you are translating. But in many ways, this book becomes more enriched because it's not just his mother's story, but his own emotions which are deeply intertwined with it. For those of you who have not read the book, I just want to give just a little small brief introduction before I start asking Manish to talk about it. As the book suggests, it is about a dancing girl. It is about a mujrawali. It is about a woman who used her body to survive. A big difference between a commercial sex worker and a woman's will to live, to bear a child, to ensure that that child, which is Manish, gets a life which she probably would have wanted to have, of education, of an English education, not just education, but a fine education, because for her, English language meant an upward mobility in her social environment, which even money could not buy. This is the story of Rekha, who leaves her village when she's 10, and then works in the quotas of Kolkata and Bombay, and lives to tell a tale which her son tells it with such moving emotions. It's a tale of a desperate woman. And that's what I was telling him, that a desperate woman can shape her own destiny. So this is the background, and believe you me, all those women, and I see a lot of women here, I would urge you to buy the book. Not because Manish is my friend, I've just met him today. Not because I share a common publisher with him. It's an inspiring story. It's a story of grit, determination, resilience, and actually conquering the greatest emotion which pulls a woman down, her emotionality. The story of Rekha is a story which is so inspiring, moving, and I better stop here because I'm almost sounding like a publicity agent. Manish, tell me what prompted you to write your mother's story, a memoir. And also, please tell us a little bit about who you are, because I'm going to mention, I've marked out 3 bits in this book, which I will tell Manish to respond to. And he will tell you about a particular portion, page 34, which will identify him and how he starts becoming the son, the loving son, and saying the words to his mother, which she probably died without hearing. So please.
Thank you so much, Alka. It's a pleasure talking to you today. And I would urge all the women to read the book, but also to tell all the men to please read the book, because it is also about their own mother. It's how they perceive their mother, and this is a story of a mother who's not on a pedestal, which often happens with kids, putting their children, putting their mothers on a pedestal and worshipping them, unlike trying to find them as human beings with follies and advantages. So it's important that this book finds an audience with both men and women. And like you asked, Alka, the reason I wrote the book was because for the longest time, my mother wanted to tell her story. Even as a child, when I used to come back from the boarding school where I was studying, and I would come to the kota. There's one very particular instance I remember. I was sitting in one corner of the kota under a ray of light and trying to do my homework in the morning. It's a beautiful scene, of course. And my mother was sitting on the other side of the kota and combing her hair. She took out a tape recorder and started recording an audio cassette with her story. And at that time, I didn't realize what she was doing, and I thought, what's the point of her trying to tell her story, because I'm too busy with my own work. I'm studying. So I didn't pay attention to her. But I think about 20 or 25 years have passed since then. The first question that I asked her when I started working out the story is, where is that audio cassette on which you recorded your story? She said, "Pata nahi, I've lost it somewhere." So I said, "Can you tell me that story again?" And this time when I was recording her on my mobile phone, there was a greater sense of understanding for me, which I would not have had as a child if I had heard that story. As an adult who's, of course, educated, I thought it would have made sense now to hear it. And so that was the beginning, the genesis for her. She wanted the world to know that a woman like her, who did not get the education, should at least be an example to somebody to shape their own destiny. So that was important for her. She always said that I wish my life is something that somebody can learn from. And so that was the starting point for me to actually put the book together.
You know, it's very important to be defined by your identity. And here we have Manish, who, when he was young, unlike many of us, and we don't realize how much of a privilege it is, he was identified by an identity which is really a very degrading identity for a woman. He told me he was called a Randi ka beta. And these are bad words for us. These are cuss words. So to have a little child who comes home to meet his mother, I was just wanting to ask him, because I've spent many hours with him this morning. And, you know, post-COVID, we are always talking of mental health. And I was just thinking, I'm a mother too. I have a very sensitive child who's artist. I was just thinking, what was going on in Manish's mind? And how does he stay so calm and live to tell the tale? Because what is another very beautiful thing about this book is there is no bitterness. There is absolutely no bitterness, no anger, no question of revenge. You know, I found that very, very interesting. So I first want to ask you this, and then, because I really have a bad throat, I'm going to ask Manish to read 3 passages which for me define Rekha.
Sure. Thank you. As a child, when I was coming to the Kota and hearing these words, Randi ki aulad and Randi ka beta, it was disconcerting because it was not something, my mother did not identify as a sex worker. She always wanted to be identified as a tawaif, and that's how I understood her. And I mean, I was in a boarding school, and I knew what it means to be a prostitute who's looked down upon, and she didn't want to be in that situation where they don't even have that dignity that she was striving for. So inside the Kota, it was all wonderful. But the minute you stepped out, even as a child, I mean, there are lots of other children, it was not a good scenario for any one of us. We were harassed and maybe abused, and it was not a atmosphere to raise a child. Which is why a lot of the tawaifs would send their children to boarding schools. And because we went to the boarding schools and understood things perhaps in a more civilized manner, some of us maybe didn't retaliate to that language. It didn't provoke us to the point that I always felt that if I retaliated by trying to beat up somebody, I think I would get beaten up more. And I didn't want that fate for myself. So I didn't let that affect me. From a very early age, I didn't let that affect me.
So when you read the book, you'll find out that Manish was a premature baby, so he was very nazuk. And his mother also made him feel very nazuk and delicate. So maybe it was your own self-survival which prevented you from also being very reactive.
I guess, I mean, I don't know how to put this, but yes. There were some kids who reacted, and they were in bad shape after that. I didn't want to be in that situation.
So, as he said, Manish said, my mother was a tawaif. She was not earning by selling her body. Very interesting, in this book, she has lots of friends and patrons. Patrons who gave her money, patrons who befriended her and helped her without any kind of, payment through sex. One of them was a man who she talks of, a man called Shekhar. I want you to read this paragraph. Here. Just one paragraph, dignity.
Shekhar made me look at myself with dignity, to hold my head up and walk, to not look at my clothes, to not be conscious of my auqat, but be firm in shaping my destiny. We went to Kashmir. I combed my hair in a shikara on Dal Lake, the sun flushing my cheeks. I rode a horse in Pahalgam, ate apples and cashews in the snow. It was all like a dream with him around. That's it.
So this was her first major outing from the Kota. She came from absolutely a poverty-stricken family where she was actually sold off to pay some family debts and got married to a man much older to her. So this was about dignity for Rekha. After this, I came across another very interesting emotion. Rekha not only, once she started making money, she made lots of it, she almost said she became like a man because she was supporting her poor sisters and uplifting the family. She spent a lot of money trying to educate her brother and her sister, which they didn't, but was really happy when Manish took full advantage of the education. Here she talks of the fact when she lost her sister Lacha. Now, I'd just like you to read this paragraph when she talks of what, just that paragraph, that page. This,
I'd read it.
yeah.
I breathed a huge sigh of relief and hugged her. In that moment, I could see myself in her. I could see my own innocence reflected in her. I could recognize the loss of my own innocence in her. I could recognize in myself a steely exterior that could brace any calamity, but not the tragedy of my story that was about to be repeated. I did not cry. I could not. I had matured so much in that instance alone. I no longer held just her elder, I was no longer just her elder sister now. I was her guardian, her mother, her protector. I had to make sure that she went back home as soon as possible with a stern warning to my father to never try these dirty tricks again on us. So she's talking about how the father was trying to sell one other sister of hers. There were 9 sisters altogether, and one brother in the end. For that one male child, my grandmother had 9 daughters in the beginning just to get that one male child. Yeah.
What is remarkable about Rekha's story is that she gave huge amounts of money to her mother, her sister's wedding, and when she needed it to get a flat for her son, she had a lot of wisdom. She realized that her son, when he comes back from a posh boarding school, cannot bring his friends to the quota. So she actually bought a flat for him. And towards the end of the book, when she goes back from Bombay back to Kolkata, I really loved what she had written about her own attitude towards sex. If you just read this, where she writes, I do not condemn sex work.
I do not condemn sex work, but I worked hard to live my life with a little respect and dignity, which came with being a tawaif. It gave me motivation to live with my head held high. Perhaps the other kind of work would have not given me the same feeling. I had seen the girls in Sonagachi living in worse conditions than us. I did not want to be a slave to some pimp, some madame, or even the patrons who could dictate to us. I had agency as a tawaif. I had my own room. I had a choice to perform in the quota, in hotel rooms, on stage functions. I had a loyal audience, adulation, and most importantly, money to improve the lives of my siblings for the better. I even had a choice in the man I wanted to be seen with. Puri azadi, full freedom.
So I don't know about how therapeutic it was for Manish to write the book, because it must have been. In the beginning, and many times, I got, as a reader, feeling that the mother loved her son to death, but the son, for whatever reason, there was a bit of tension, and there was a, did you say 10 minutes? There was a bit of tension, and there was also some kind of distance. In fact, I feel the same because when I said, come and sit here, so he tells me, thoda distance acha rehta hai. So that's interesting. Um, when I read the emotions, the thoughts, beginning with the dignity that she wanted, the first para that I asked him to read, the nurturing aspect with Lacha, her sister, which she did with all those around her. All the tawaifs in the kotas also, she supported a lot of them. And then the conclusion, where she talks of her own agency. So here is a woman who lived life on her own terms. And when the story was being told, she was a very ill woman. She was on dialysis. He was taping, filming her. I wanted to ask him, what is his now relationship with his mother? Before writing the memoir, after completing the memoir, and third most important, after she has passed over.
I mean, you're right about the distance. I think I'll skip it.
It's an emotional moment. Emotional for Manish because, believe you me, I can sense that there is a great amount of regret in him for his inability to say those 3 words, I love you, mummy, which his mother must have wanted him to say and he didn't say it often enough. You know, I've lost my mother 5 years ago and I have many regrets. Simple things which our mothers ask. I not want to continue anymore because make things very personal, and if I am feeling so inspired, I told him it is a very, very emotional conversation with him. I can understand what he's feeling.